Unmasking the mainstream and social media. That's another gift from President Trump that we will detail in tonight's preamble. The left is out of control. You all know this. They hate President Trump because he won't accept their double standards. They are un-American. They no longer share American values. Case in point, the million MAGA marches that took place across the country this weekend. Those who support President Trump wanted to show that support by partaking in the American tradition of free speech. The peaceful Trump supporters were greeted by violent, intolerant, and barbaric Biden supporters in BLM and Antifa. These are the same violent thugs who burned, looted, beat, and killed their way through our streets over the summer. Remember how it used to be in old American republic? You and your neighbor, you could support different candidates, you could support different causes, but when the voting was over, you were still neighbors, secure in the fact that more united you than divided you. Biden supporters can put up their yard signs and do their rallies assured that they won't be vandalized or physically harmed by conservatives. But Trump supporters can't say the same. Through arson, violence, and intimidation, violent liberals who are protected and even encouraged by a corrupt and dishonest press no longer tolerate dissent. When you look at how both sides act, peaceful rallies by Trump supporters or violence from Democrat socialists, which actions do you consider to be truly American? It's true. The only people who allow free expression of ideas along with free and fair elections are conservatives. They are the only ones behaving as true Americans. We are the only folks in our country who remember that old adage that was popularized at the turn of the last century. Quote, "I do not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." These days, a Democrat will commit violence to shut people up, often with no condemnation from the mainstream press. Biden supporters also work to silence your voice in other ways. The conservative perspective is rarely presented in the biased press, and if it is presented, it is often distorted through a left-wing lens. The same can be said for the biggest but ever-shrinking social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook. In a revealing segment on CNN, little Brian Stelter revealed his alarm that conservatives are abandoning those unfair platforms and seeking actual freedom forums that allow free speech from all sides.
This new social media app called Parler getting a lot of attention because conservatives are saying they're leaving Twitter and Facebook, going off to Parler because they believe Parler is a safer space for them. What we're seeing is even more of a bunker mentality in right-wing media, and ultimately that's not good for the country.
No, it's not good. It's a threat to democracy that these people are in echo chambers and they're getting fed a diet of lies, essentially. Brian Stelter.
That's what it is. Thanks.
Well, no more an echo chamber than ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, or MSNBC. And nobody believes that our representative republic hinges on everybody getting the same liberal biased opinion disguised as news from CNN and the rest. We all know the majority of the press has been lying about President Donald Trump for years through omission or through fake news. Stelter doesn't talk to real conservatives. If he did, he'd know we're not leaving Twitter and Facebook because we want a safe space. Far from it. The fact is, conservatives don't like having our voices censored. Would CNN sign up to a conservative social media platform that labeled all of their products fake news? No, of course they wouldn't. But did you notice little Brian there was afraid? He was terribly afraid that all of you conservatives would be leaving Twitter and Facebook. He's worried for several reasons. Number one, liberals can't stand when we conservatives don't play by their rules. Trust me, as long as you remain on Facebook and Twitter, you are playing by their rules. Number two, little Brian is also concerned about liberals losing power. Now, don't forget, you provide free content and an audience to Twitter and Facebook. And while you are there, you are making a bunch of anti-American leftists filthy rich. Little Brian doesn't want you to leave. He wants you supporting platforms that donate nearly exclusively to left-wingers and left-wing causes. Democrat socialists are not real Americans. They don't believe what you and I believe. They support violence against their political opposition. They don't support free speech. And isn't that what makes America great? that everyone is free to support the causes and the candidates they wish without fear of violence and intimidation. Real Americans know and understand that you don't fight speech you disagree with or speech you believe is wrong with censorship. Instead, you fight it with more free speech. Biden's Democrat Socialist Party has resorted to censorship, enemies lists, and violence. They have broken a compact with the rest of us. That is why so many of us are fighting for the truth of what happened in this election. We can't, in good conscience, turn over our nation to the violent thugs and the high-tech censors who now dominate the Democrat Socialist Party.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.